So keep in mind, bear with us, we're going to have to take our time with certain things while I let her translate stuff right now, I believe.
Bonjour à toutes et à tous dans cet événement phare, cet événement prometteur et rayonnant et qui s'intitule L'éclat des femmes noires vers une guérison, une autonomisation et une émancipation. Des femmes brillantes dans tous les domaines, des femmes pionnières et qui ne cessent de nous inspirer toutes et tous. Nous vous promettons donc un voyage au cœur d'expertise, une belle échappée avec des femmes qui éclatent de lumière et de lueur. Bienvenue à tous et à toutes.
Thank you. And before we start, I would like to do a quick land acknowledgement. We are acknowledged and we are hosted on the lands of the Mississauga of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and the Inuit people. And before I continue, we would like to have a few words from our founder, ACMP, Dr. Warren Clark.
Alors, pour notre affirmation autochtone, et avant de passer à M. Warren, l'affirmation autochtone de l'Université d'Ottawa vise à rendre hommage à la nation algonquine sur les terres ancestrales de laquelle se trouve l'Université d'Ottawa. Nous rendons hommage au peuple algonquin, gardien traditionnel de ces terres. Nous reconnaissons le lien sacré de longue date l'unissant à ce territoire qui demeure non cédé. Nous rendons également hommage à toutes les personnes autochtones qui habitent Ottawa.
Oh, it's a big, there I am. Hi, good afternoon, or good evening. I trust everyone is well. Thanks for showing up for another ACMP event. And for those who've never been to an ACMP event, welcome. So again, my name is Warren Clark, the assistant professor in the University of Manitoba in the anthropology department, and the founder of the Afro-Caribbean Menstrual program. And for the last 4 to 5 years, or I should say 5 years now, we've been hosting Afro-Caribbean Black events that are culturally sensitive to the lived experiences of ACB, Afro-Caribbean Black students, but also community members. And what I mean by students, I'm also acknowledging high school students and post-secondary education students as well. And the mentorship that we've been offering is not only in the modes of programming, mentorship programming, such as one tonight, but it's also a one-on-one mentorship, connecting youth or community members to professionals, Black professionals in our community, but most importantly, creating a space, a safe space for to hold discussions such as the one we're going to have tonight. You know, last year we learned a lot in regards to acknowledging Black women's social experiences, particularly in the Canadian context. And we want to continue that with the Afro-Caribbean Mentorship Program. There is space to have these conversations, but we have to learn as a community to make space for those for people to be vulnerable, to create those relational solidarity. And one of the things that we've learned over the years with this ACMP initiative is that audience members are not only learning, but they're growing and they're sharing with their broader communities or networks. But again, as I was alluding to, there's a sharing of this vulnerability that's creating a relation with solidarity. And we were able, and we are continuing to build trust with our community members who show up to any of the ACMP events. So we're very grateful and humbled. Again, this is not an opportunity for Warren to continue speaking. This is an opportunity to acknowledge and appreciate that anti-Black racism does come in different shapes, forms, and sizes. And today we're going to be discussing and sharing and acknowledging how we can, challenge anti-Black racism, particularly when it comes to Black women and their social experience in a Canadian context. So without further ado, I'm very honored and humbled to share space with many of you here. And I am willing to learn and continue to learn to be an ally and work in solidarity with my Black sisters. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Warren Clark. Before we continue, I would like to just go over quick reminders for Zoom etiquette-wise. As we're doing this, please remain on mute, be kind, and just respect others' space while we're doing this. And that will be it for now on that part. Kita?
Alors, pour notre Zoom étiquette, nous vous demandons gentiment d'éteindre vos micros et de respecter l'ordre général de chacun. Merci de cliquer sur aussi l'icône de la main avant de participer. Merci de votre compréhension.
And just to give everyone a heads up, this is being recorded. So we encourage the chat as if we're all here talking together, encourage the chat and everything else. There, that was it for that.
Alors, Terena, je crois qu'on doit proposer, we have to like present our layout. And aujourd'hui, nous vous présentons un menu assez chargé, assez riche, healthy et bien diversifié. Santé physique et sexuelle, physical and reproductive health, rencontres, relations et sexualité, dating relationships and sexuality, vie universitaire et vie de carrière, and this is the final segment, the third segment, which is academics and career. Yes, welcome to all, and bienvenue à tous et à toutes encore une fois.
Thank you. Let us start. We have one expert. Before we do our meditation video, I would like to introduce Meghan Stewart. Meghan Stewart is our certified lead coach through the Unified Mindfulness located in Ottawa, Canada. In 2021, Meghan launched the Mindful Educator program as part of the new teacher induction program for the Ottawa Catholic School Board. Currently, she supports children and youth in schools within the GTA, Ottawa, Gatineau related to anti-discrimination and wellness initiatives.
Alors, thank you so much, and we will go to break quickly. On va voyager tout de suite avec une séance de méditation présentée par Meghan Stewart. Amusez-vous bien et restez branchés.
Hi, everyone. My name is Meghan Stewart, and I will be guiding you into a meditation to anchor yourselves in whatever shows up for you in this practice as we step into this incredible event, thanks to ACMP, the Women's Glow event on this wonderful Thursday evening. So let's lengthen our spines and allow ourselves to bring our breath into our awareness. And if it feels right to you, closing your eyes or finding a gaze that's restful. We don't want to fall asleep in the meditation. So our posture, whether we're laying down or we're sitting up, can be alert if you can access that. If not, do whatever is inclusive to your body's capabilities and needs at this time. So on your next exhale, inviting in softness in the jaw, softness in your eyebrows, in your tongue, in your mouth, allowing your tongue to drop from the roof of your mouth to the bottom, allowing your shoulders to soften and inviting in that intentionality in this practice. And we're going to begin by inviting in what may represent safety for each of us as individuals, not in the absence of safety by any means, but a space of belonging and the things that we see and the things that we may hear and the things that we feel that are associated with safety. So inviting on your next exhale, a visual of a person, people, those that are unconditionally present for you and loving, abundant, and generous in their care for you and their compassion. Maybe well ancestors that have passed or that are present, elders, family, non-family, community members. It may even be a space that you're visualizing as well. An outdoor space, a path you enjoy traveling, a space in nature, the beach, some property that you may own now or visit. And inviting that visual in if that is not accessible for you. If your mental screen is blank, that's okay. We're going to invite in the sense of hearing now. And so hearing that internal dialogue that represents safety for you. It could be the sound of the voices of those individuals that you are visualizing or bringing up. Maybe the sounds of the ocean or that path or the birds or other forms of nature that are present. Taking a moment to invite that in as well. And now exploring the physical body and the emotional body. So what are you feeling in terms of touch and smell and taste, as well as emotions and body sensations? Are your feet in the ground, in the sand, on that path? Or maybe you're visualizing being under a tree and you're hearing the sound of the tree or the ocean nearby. And you're also feeling your feet and your hands and your cheeks being met with wind or the sun and the warmth of that or the cool breeze. Just inviting that in. It could also be even the individuals that you have identified as safe for you, and inviting in maybe the feel of their touch or the smell of the food that they've cooked, and what emotions are present for you. Just taking a moment to explore this. And now, as we leave our practice, may we have a background practice, have this present throughout this wonderful event, knowing this is a space you can always anchor yourself in, ground yourself in this sense of belonging and safety.
Okay, thank you. I hope everyone tried it or at least attempted to try it. For me, that was fun, but my problem is always having that tongue down. I always keep it up. I got to learn to keep it down. But anyways, I hope everyone else tried it and can practice that at times because it does help, I find. So let us start. Right now, for this segment, we will be talking about the physical and reproductive health. And with our special guest, we have Sarah-Jane Vaughn and Amie Archibald-Varley, and I'm sorry if I still pronounce these names wrong. I am truly sorry, not intentional here. To begin, I will talk about with Sarah-Jane Vaughn. Sarah-Jane Vaughn is the founder of the Wellness Bay Saran, a full-service holistic wellness education platform dedicated to menstrual health and decolonized approach to well-being. Saran is also a cultural curator, educator, and advocate, creating safe learning spaces for Afro-diasporic youth at the intersection of wellness, art, and culture.
Alors, dans notre première section, on va vous présenter la santé physique et sexuelle, comme on a déjà dit. Nous avons des invités, comme a déjà souligné Terena, très spéciales et des femmes toutes belles. Saran-James Vaughn, qui est la fondatrice de Wellness by Saran, une plateforme d'éducation au bien-être holistique à service complet dédié à la santé menstruelle et une approche décolonisée du bien-être. Saran est également conservatrice culturelle, éducatrice et avocate, créant des espaces d'apprentissage sûrs sur les jeunes et le diaspora africaine, à l'intersection du bien-être, de l'art et de la culture.
Thank you. We also have Amie Archibald-Varley. Amie Archibald-Varley, RN, MN, CP, Women's Health, is a thought leader in in advancing health equity and political health activism in healthcare. She currently works at Niagara Health as a quality and patient safety specialist for emergency services and Accreditation Canada Quality Lead. Amie is the co-host of the successful Gritty Nurse podcast, which discusses hot topics in healthcare. Amie is also the director of multimedia of Candy M.
Alors, notre deuxième invitée, Amie Archibald-Varley, est une leader d'opinion dans la promotion de l'équité en santé et de l'activisme politique en matière de santé, exactement dans les soins de santé. Elle est une conférencière dynamique, une chercheuse et une collaboratrice des médias médicaux. Elle travaille actuellement à Niagara Health en tant que spécialiste de la qualité et de la sécurité des patients pour les services d'urgence et responsable de la qualité d'agrément Canada. Amie est la co-animatrice de succès Gritty Nurse podcast qui traite de sujets d'actualité dans le domaine de la santé aussi. Elle est également directrice du multimédia chez Canada AIM et qui est une communauté de pratique pour les praticiens canadiens de la médecine d'urgence en produisant et en distribuant des ressources éducatives de haute qualité et librement disponibles. Merci d'être avec nous toutes les deux. Et,
Thank you and welcome.
I think we'll discuss, Dorena, the questions, yes? There are
Yes.
a lot of questions
Yes.
on our plot, yes.
Yes. So I'm going to ask right now, and I would like to say welcome to you both. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this. And as Geeta just said, we have a couple of questions. So I don't know who wants to answer first, but I do have one. And one of the questions is, what is medical racism? I've heard this term recently, but not sure what it really means. So.
Alors, pour vous traduire vite, qu'est-ce que le racisme, la fille ou bien ce participant, il demande qu'est-ce que le racisme médical? J'ai entendu parler de ce terme récemment et je ne sais exactement ce que c'est. Alors, voilà. Est-ce que vous avez une idée sur le racisme médical ou bien le racisme en matière médicale, etc.
Yes.
I guess. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak today and be with my colleague here, Saran. And I'll start with the first question and then I'll pass it over. So in terms of medical racism, from my understanding, and I do a lot of talk about anti-Black racism and anti-racism specifically in healthcare, medical racism to me is the systemic and widespread racism that is typically experienced by non-white people. So this would be racialized people, Indigenous people within the medical and healthcare system. So this can include racism that we see within our society that's perpetuated onto racialized people causing them to have poor healthcare outcomes. And it actually also plays to the disparity and the huge disparity gap that we do see in healthcare outcomes of racialized people versus white individuals as well. And unfortunately, there are these long-standing biases that are still held, biases that we need to correct, as well as structural and social racism from history of medicine. So with all of that coupled, today, although these factors happened many, many years ago, they still are very present in today's healthcare system and are things that need to be fixed, corrected, and changed, because we do want to see better healthcare outcomes for Black individuals, as well as Indigenous individuals and other racialized individuals.
Thank you. Do you also find, are you hearing more now than you did before, or is it about the same?
I think that with, oh, sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
No, I was just asking, like, do you feel it's the same or more, you're hearing it more, like people are coming out more talking about it, or has it always been and we've just been pushing it back and not acknowledging it?
Yeah, I'd say that, I'd say probably with the death of George Floyd, we've actually been hearing it being discussed a little bit more. It's come to the forefront where we're, I think, unfortunately, in our case with Black individuals and other racialized individuals, we tend to have to feel that we're not believed when we talk about these instances, and when we talk about microaggressions or macroaggressions in healthcare, that really, for some people, the truth is only when we videotape something. So one of the things that I said, like, we have heard about this more through the cases of like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and others, but this is something that has been long standing. And I think there's a greater push to see accountability and change in the healthcare system.
Thank you. Gita?
I see that we have another question for.
Want me to just do it? For next question would be, are Diva cups the best for periods? And what about those periods underwear I see on IG?
All right. Okay. So first, I want to thank you all for having me, and really thrilled to be here and have this really important discussion. All right. So Diva cups, does everybody kind of have an idea of what it is? Menstrual cup, silicone based, typically inserted in the vagina to collect blood. So I always say it's more based on what is within your comfort. There are pros and cons to the Diva cup, so or menstrual cups in general. So the pros are, if you want to keep track of how much you're losing every month, your blood loss, it's a really great tool for that because it does have measurements on it. Also, it tends to hold a bit more. It's reusable. So again, you're like reducing your cost on menstrual products. But the cons are, some people find them uncomfortable, right? Depending on your pelvic floor, the muscle tone, all of that, it can feel uncomfortable on insertion. And the other thing is it can get a little messy when you're taking it out. If you're in a public space or a public bathroom, for example, it can get a little bit tricky. So there are pros and cons. It just depends on your comfort. I do like menstrual underwear, again, because it's reusable, more environmentally friendly. You're not having that exposure to toxic things that we typically see in conventional menstrual products. It depends on your flow with that as well. So if you tend to have a heavier flow, sometimes they don't, work. But if you're just kind of at home and lounging, really great option. You probably will see the other options are cloth pads as well for the same reason. And they do have natural pads as well that don't have the plastics and all that other stuff that you don't want close to your body. So ultimately, it's up to you. I like it because you can tell if you want to kind of gauge where you are in terms of blood flow. It's a really great one to use.
Alors, Saran recommande l'utilisation des capsules Diva pour les règles. Il dit qu'il y a des avantages et des désavantages aussi. Ça dépend de votre propre physiologie, où vous vous sentez à l'aise dans votre peau. Est-ce que vous sentez vraiment que vous êtes confortable, que ça va avec votre corps, avec votre physiologie, etc. Et ça dépend aussi, ça peut causer parfois des effets secondaires de périodes aléatoires ou bien de règles qui ne sont pas organisées, bien ordonnées dans le bon timing. Et voilà. Merci, Saran.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is, my roommate showed me something online that says Black women shouldn't have periods and it's unnatural. She's been trying to get me to change my diet, but I'm not sure about all that.
Alors, la question dit que ma coloc m'avait montré quelque chose en ligne qui dit que la femme noire ne doit pas avoir ses règles et que c'est innaturel. Elle essayait de me pousser à changer mon régime alimentaire, mais je suis certaine de tout cela.
Okay.
That's a tough question.
Want me to go first? I don't know.
And that's a weird question, no?
Yeah. I actually have a really great answer to this question.
Oh, good.
So initially, like off the bat, it's like obviously it's normal to have a period. That's like the first answer that comes to mind. However, I really want to encourage all of you to kind of put on some critical thinking glasses for a minute and like even understand where the origins of this school of thought comes from. So when I saw this question come up, it was kind of funny to me because I'm very aware of this theory. A quick backstory. Many years ago, my mom introduced me to a book written by Dr. Leisha Africa, and it's called African Holistic Health. He is the one who says this, that it's not normal. I actually have seen him speak live here in Toronto, the late Dr. Leisha Africa. So according to him, and I have a quote, menstruation is not a normal state. Menstruation is hemorrhaging. Hemorrhaging is a flow of fresh blood. Hemorrhaging, whether it occurs in the brain, eyes, lungs, or uterus, is not normal. All right, so let's just stick a pin there, okay? Why would he even say this? So let's look at what happens with other animals. We know that mammals have what you call an estrous cycle or a breeding cycle, right? So humans, old world monkeys, a certain species of bats, we menstruate, but most other mammals don't menstruate. And the reason for that is, yes, there is an egg and sperm and all of that with dogs and other animals, but their endometrial lining is so thin that it just gets reabsorbed, right? If there's no egg being fertilized. So according to Dr. Africa, he seems to think that sexual abuse of women by men over lunar cycles over generations has caused hemorrhaging, as he puts it. When women feel enslaved or oppressed in some way that violates their holistic cycles or improper diets. And then he goes on to say that, like, you know, men hide their contribution to women's disease using sexism and chauvinism in science, etc. So that's his perspective, right? What I really want you to think about and to understand is that we have normalized very heavy periods. Whenever I tell people what a normal amount of blood loss is, they're like, no, I mean, I have to wear a diaper during my cycle, or I have to wear these like huge pads. And thinking about the fact that when you're not in alignment, your reproductive system is so sensitive to your environment, to your mental environment, your emotional environment, your physical environment, what you put into your body. Your reproductive system is going to shut down if you are exposed to any level of stress. So how can you come back into alignment with your body, build that body awareness, right? Think about the alignment of other species of animals. When it's winter, they rest. When it's summer, they're busy, they're doing things. During our cycles, we have the opportunity to do the same thing. And so we can see the effects of not being in alignment and on our menstrual cycles. That does not mean that bleeding is wrong or bad or not normal. But if you are having excessive amounts of bleeding, excessive amounts of pain and discomfort, then yes, I would say that that is a red flag to consider. But I wanted to give you a little bit of background on where that theory comes from and really kind of think about it in a little different perspective.
Yeah, and I don't know if I could just quickly add. So the other thing is I was a labor and delivery nurse for over 10 years. And that was my other specialty before I got into quality improvement. And just kind of just throwing out there the idea of the fact that it is natural, having a period actually serves a purpose. So, I mean, at the end of the day, the reason why women have periods is because it's kind of like this, it's this, the cycle is natural because it's a natural way that your body would be preparing for a possible pregnancy each month. So understanding of the process and the hormones that our bodies go through. So the estrogen, the progesterone, and then again, if that ovum is not fertilized, or that egg is not fertilized, that, you know, the lining that we've created, that thick lining, will then be shed, you know, in the first 1 to 5 days of our cycle. So again, yeah, it's absolutely normal and natural. There's a lot of evidence that suggests that it is. And the other piece is I actually did a really fun podcast with a doctor named Sophia Yen. There's no financial ties here. She has a website called Pandia Health. She's an obstetrician, and she talks a lot about what healthy periods look like, and what, if you don't want to have a period, what that looks like too. So I think there are lots of options, and people just have to find it what's comfortable for them and what works. And that's all I'd like to add.
Thank you. Thank you very much for answering these questions. And I just want to tell everyone and let us keep in mind, a lot of our questions that we have taken are from a lot of young Black females. So it seems odd for us sometimes, but I mean, it's pretty truthful. And I hear this each time for some younger generations on certain questions. But thank you very much for your open, honest questions and the answerings that we're getting today. Our next question was, I am in my 20s and I want to have kids for sure. What can I do to protect my fertility right now? Anyone want to take that?
Alors, la question dit que je suis dans ma vingtaine et je veux des enfants. Absolument. Comment gérer ou bien protéger ma fécondité ou bien ma fertilité dès maintenant?
I don't mind starting. So I can give you a couple tips. So one of the things I'd say is, you know, I think with women and how things are changing, I think if we even look at just things simple like the housing market and when you could be able to afford a home, a lot has changed. And, you know, I think the perception of the working woman has changed in terms of, you know, the fact that we tend to want to start careers and we want to do all these other things first. And that's absolutely okay as well. And I think, you know, having these conversations early on are really, really important. In terms of things that you could do, I actually had issues with my fertility. So this may have nothing to do with you, but for example, I waited till I was around 27, 28 years old, and I went to a fertility clinic. So I ended up learning lots and lots about fertility. But there are lots of different things you could do. There's things called egg freezing or embryo freezing. So that's where they can actually, and I think in terms of the stats, there's approximately 50% of patients have extra embryos following an IVF cycle. So that's like in vitro fertilization, and you can actually freeze your eggs. There's also, you know, if you wanted to wait, there's donor eggs, there's surrogacy, there's lots of different options out there. And there's lots of great fertility centers that could help guide you through these process. And I think that, you know, a lot of people think, and I remember kind of when I was going through my own fertility issues, I shouldn't say issues, but my own fertility challenges or opportunities, I felt very alone, but I find that, you know, connecting with people who are going through these experiences were really, really helpful. And I could say at the end of the day, at 31, I ended up having twin boys. So I have 10-year-old boys now and a daughter too. So you could wait and you could do what you want. And there's lots of different options out there available for you.
Thank you so much, Amie. I think this is what we call cryopreservation. This is like
Yes, cryopreservation. Yes, you got it.
nice. Yes. And
Yeah, I can add to that. Just from a holistic or like nutrition perspective, you want to really think about ovulation as the grand show. Like you want to protect that at all costs, right? So having the right sort of nutrients that support healthy ovulation, knowing what ovulation is, right? What is leading up to that grand event? So, you know, understanding your body, changes in cervical mucus. If you're noticing you're not having changes in cervical mucus, that might be a red flag. You want to really be in tune with your body. There's this myth that, you know, you can't, you know, as you get older, you won't be as fertile. Not the case. There are people in their 40s who get pregnant with no issue, but everybody's situation is unique. So you want to be having really healthy cycles all throughout and just being aware of those red flags or warning signs. So coming back to that ovulation again, if you're noticing your cervical mucus not going from, you know, that thicker white creamy into like your egg white stretchy, which tells you that you're very fertile, that's your fertile time in the middle of your cycle, then you want to make note of that. If you're not, so keeping a diary, making sure that you are, you know, tracking your symptoms and different changes is really critical. Making sure that you're sleeping well, you're reducing your stress levels, because again, as I mentioned before, very sensitive to changes in your environment. Even illness can change when you ovulate. So if you get a cold or the flu, your body's like, oh, can't do anything right now because it's not safe. So you might notice that your ovulation changes. You might be traveling. There's so many things that can really impact the quality of your ovulatory period. And ovulation, the quality of your eggs is dependent on the 3 months before. It takes 3 months for that follicle to mature and to give you good, healthy eggs. So really being mindful of you know, all of these different factors is really important.
thank you so much, Saran. This is good to know. Like 3 last months. This is the rule to follow.
So what you did 3 months ago is affecting this cycle.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. We have one more question, and that question is, what are fibroids? I read that said Black women are at high risk for them. Is that true?
Could you repeat for, I'm sorry, Tarana, could you repeat?
No problem, it's not a problem. What are fibroids? I read they said that Black women are at high risk for them. Is that true?
I don't see the question, but can you share it, Adele, please, with the public to let participants see it, like in the screen? Wow. Qu'est-ce que les fibroids? I don't know, me too. J'ai lu que les femmes noires sont vraiment attaquées par cela, et cela vraiment a un risque très malsain pour eux. Pour elles, est-ce que cela est vrai?
Okay. I guess I could start. So from my understanding and from my learning, uterine fibroids are considered to be non-cancerous growths that may develop within the uterus. They may sometimes be referred to as something called a leoma or myoma. And there's actually really no understanding in terms of where they actually came from. I think from my understanding, a lot of experts actually don't know what causes uterine fibroids, but some research can suggest that making changes to your lifestyle, so healthy lifestyle choices and changes, may help lower the chances of actually developing them. So for example, it may be helpful to eat a wide variety of fruits and vegetables and just maintain a healthy weight. The other thing is there is evidence that suggests that uterine fibroids can affect women of reproductive age, but Black women tend to be more susceptible and more likely to have than others to develop them. And Black women tend to experience more symptoms and more severe symptoms. And this could look like anything between, prolonged menstrual periods, pelvic pressure or pain, the frequent need to urinate or go to the bathroom to pee, having difficulty emptying your bladder, constipation, so hard formed stools, backaches, and or leg pain. And they are treatable. And actually, we just passed, I think it was world recognition and acknowledgement of fibroids. And there were some really great stories on Twitter and various different social media platforms of strong women talking about their challenges and how they go about dealing with having uterine fibroids.
All right, thank you, Amie, for that definition. I think it's important to actually just know what they are to begin with, because a lot of people don't know. They just know the symptoms, right? And then they hear, oh, there's something growing. So the number one question I get a lot is
and I'm sorry, Torina, I just learned too that the fibroids are les fibromes utérins. This is what we call fibrome utérin. Yes.
Okay, that's how you say it in French. Interesting.
Medical vocabulary.
Yes. Okay, so number one question I get is, can I treat this holistically? And my answer is always yes and no. It depends. If you are seeing, if it's early, right? They're very small. You can do things in your lifestyle to change, changing your diet. And I can speak forever on what you can do for that piece of it. Yes. But once they get to a certain place, it's really challenging, right? Sometimes those medical interventions are necessary. And it is said that up to 80% of Black women have fibroids. I actually have a dear friend of mine who I went to high school with, who's an OBGYN in Jamaica, and she will tell me I will go in to do a C-section and I will see fibroids, and that patient never knew they had fibroids. It was just there, just asymptomatic. It's that common. Some other really important stats to be aware of. On average, it takes 3.5 years for a woman to seek treatment for fibroids. 32% of women wait more than 5 years to seek treatment. And 42% of women visit more than 2 practitioners before getting diagnosed. Why are those stats important? Because they are growing this whole time. So a lot of times when you get to the point where you go to the doctor, they're already quite large. And so you go to a holistic practitioner, a naturopath, and they're like, hey, can you help me with fibroids? It's like, well, they've gotten to this stage. We can do things to kind of slow the growth or help them to shrink, but they may not disappear completely, because there is the environment that allowed them to grow in the first place is still there. So on my Instagram, I did a post recently about the fibroid iceberg. So what you see on the surface are these symptoms, right? Fatigue, bladder and bowel dysfunction, pelvic pain, all of these things. But below the surface, there's a lot more. There's intergenerational or ancestral trauma, right? There's a lot of women who have their mothers and grandmothers and aunties who have fibroids, and there's this very deeply emotional element to it. There's high stress levels, there's environmental toxins, high estrogen levels, hormone imbalance, the psycho-spiritual piece of it. The ancestral piece is really deep with fibroids. sexual abuse and trauma. These are all things that, you know, impact the womb space, impact the energy of the womb. And so these are things that you kind of have to do a deep dive into, you know, using therapy, you know, consulting with a holistic practitioner, even if you're doing the things that are, you know, the medical interventions, because you can have a myomectomy and they're gone for the moment, but often they do grow back. So you want to make sure that the environment that allowed them to grow in the first place is no longer there. And that comes with doing the work below the surface, right?
Thank you so much. I would like to thank Sarah James Vaughn and Amie Archibald-Varley for all these great advice and everything that's going on, and how you explained everything opened up a lot in my mind, I'm sure for others. Before we let you go, I had to say thank you once more. And for anyone, if you still have questions, please type into the live chat and we'll be back with you. We just have to do a quick commercial. Thank you.
Une petite pause publicitaire. We are back.
We're back. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Our next segment is going to be dating, relationships, and sexuality with Susan Wenzel and Dr. L.S. Samuel. So before I start, I would like to tell you a little about Susan Wenzel. Susan Wenzel is a certified sex therapist, relationship expert, and a psychotherapist with over 10 years of experience working with individuals and couples, as well as leading seminars and workshops in the United States and Canada. She's an author of A Happy Life in an Open Relationship, a guide to healthy and fulfilling non-monogamous love life. Susan was born and raised in Kenya and currently lives with her family in Manitoba, Canada.
Alors, bienvenue, we're back in our second segment, rencontre, relations et sexualité avec Susan Wenzel. Susan Wenzel est une sexothérapeute certifiée, une experte en relations et une psychothérapeute avec plus de 10 ans d'expérience de travail avec des individus et des couples, ainsi que des séminaires et des ateliers aux États-Unis et au Canada. Elle est l'auteur de Une vie heureuse dans une relation ouverte, un guide pour une vie amoureuse, non monogame, saine et épanouissante. Le travail de Susan a été présenté dans le New York Times Magazine, le New York Post Magazine, Oprah Winfrey, also Oprah Winfrey Magazine, Men's Health, Business Insider et bien d'autres. Bienvenue Susan.
Thank you. And our next one is also Dr. Laurie Samuel, who is a criminologist with expertise in police community relations, police misconduct, risk management, community engagement, and interpersonal violence. She is leading expert in early Identification and Intervention System, EIS. In 2015, after noticing an escalation in violence against women, incidents based on police reports and news stories, Dr. Samuel created Cupid Sting. It's an interpersonal violence reduction program to teach women life-saving skills through workshops on interpersonal violence, domestic violence, and street harassment and self-defense techniques. Dr. Samuel writes a blog called You Have the Right to Remain Informed that focus on crime tips for women, information on victimization, and policing. She is also the author of the novel Dear Diary, which features a murder mystery based on a domestic violence victim. Dr. Samuel lives in Toronto and loves hanging out with her family and working out.
Merci, Terena. Alors, Dr. Laurie Samuels. Laurie est une criminologue professionnellement formée avec une expertise dans l'inconduite policière, les systèmes d'identification et d'intervention précoce, les relations police-communauté, la diversité et l'inclusion et la violence interpersonnelle. Elle a travaillé dans l'éducation, la recherche, les homicides, les ressources humaines et les affaires internes. En 2015, Dr. Samuels a lancé Cupid Sting, un programme à but non lucratif de rééducation de la violence interpersonnelle dont la mission est d'enseigner aux femmes des outils pour prévenir la victimisation. Cupid Sting enseigne des compétences que les femmes peuvent utiliser lors d'altérations ou d'attaques potentielles à l'intérieur ou à l'extérieur de la maison en animant des ateliers sur les abus, dont les fréquentations et la violence domestique. Bienvenue Laurie, on est très heureux de vous avoir avec nous.
Thank you. And thank you very much, ladies, for coming and giving us your expertise on all these questions. My first question I have, and if whoever wants to take it, it was, what do you mean by a healthy relationship? How can a relationship be unhealthy?
Alors, notre première question, c'est, il dit, qu'est-ce qu'on veut dire par une relation saine ou bien une relation, et qu'est-ce qu'une relation toxique ou bien malsaine?
I'll jump in on this one, Susan, if that's okay. Before I do, this event is awesome. It is so amazing being amongst other Black women professionals doing work in the community to really ensure that our health needs, our safety needs are met. In terms of healthy versus unhealthy relationships, I'll just give you an example. Domestic violence, violence against women, a lot of those relationships are marked by violence. So when we look at statistics, and I'm sure you've heard this statistic before, but as I say it, I'm going to say it and say it and say it over and over again until we reduce it. But 1 in 3 women will be a victim of physical, sexual, or psychological violence at the hands of an intimate partner in her lifetime. And when we look at these numbers amongst Black women, the numbers are much, much higher, but we don't know the exact numbers because we tend to suffer in silence. So a lot of these relationships are your partners, your husbands, fathers of your children that are beating on you, hurting you, and that is in essence the definition of unhealthy. Healthy relationships, on the other hand, are marked by respect. They're marked by love, but true love. Love doesn't hurt. Love doesn't hit. And there's a mutual partnership. And we could talk for hours and hours and hours in terms of where this comes from, but just know for the young ladies out there that healthy relationships feel good and you know the difference. You don't hide. It's something that you're proud of. And I'll say this, follow your gut, always follow your gut, because I think we know the difference, but I think a lot of times young women just want to be loved and want to be in relationships. So they may put up with things that others may not.
Thank you so much. And I think you've said that we have to trust our feeling, our first impression, no? Like, la première impression, pour juste donner wrap up in French, la première impression est très intéressante et on doit croire à nous-mêmes. Et une relation saine, c'est le respect, c'est l'amour, c'est vous vous sentez bien dans votre peau, c'est quelque chose où vous vous sentez fier de vous-même et vous vous sentez à l'aise. Merci beaucoup, Laurie. Ça me touche personnellement. This is really touching me because relationship healthy, either with men or with women, it is so important to notice it and to feel it and to know that you're not comfortable or you are. Those things, I think we have to follow our feelings.
Definitely have to agree with that one, people.
And I want to add something before we move to the next question on that, on what makes a good relationship. And I'm so happy that Laurel, you talked about the domestic abuse and when the relationship is toxic and unhealthy. And then there's other very subtle way when a relationship is healthy or not healthy. And most clients that I see come to see me because of communication. Now we're talking about where there's no abuse, it's a civil relationship, but it's still, is it healthy or is it not healthy? So I like saying communication is lubrication. I didn't come up with that. It's lubrication for your relationship. Without communication, there will be no relationship the way you want. And I know some people have an avoidant tendency where they don't want to communicate, they don't want to share their feeling. But knowing, just like you don't want to go out because it's snowing outside, but you really have to. So knowing, okay, I really have to be able to communicate with my partner, even if I don't want to communicate, because that's what keeps the relationship going. And I'll also like to say that setting healthy boundaries is important. I'm talking about when you are safe. Like if the relationship is abusive and it's really toxic, your safety is the most important thing. I'm just talking about regular relationships that are not going well. So you need to be able to set boundaries in your relationship. That's communicating your boundaries. And you also need to be able to become emotionally attuned to your partner. So this is something else, is emotional attunement. We also call it emotional intelligence. When you're tuning into your partner, most people knows how to do this with their children, especially when the children are little. When the children are crying, they're like, are you okay? What's going on? They're empathetic. But somehow with our partners, we lose those skills. We're not attentive and attuned. So a good, healthy relationship requires to be attuned to a partner. And this is my favorite of them all, is a good, healthy relationship requires to regulate our own emotion. That defeats all love. You can love somebody so well, but if you're not able to communicate or regulate your emotion, that love will go out of the window very quickly. So regulating our emotion is so important. How am I feeling? Checking in with ourselves. What do I need? I love that we did meditation today in the beginning of this session to calm our nervous system down, to question our thought pattern, how true they are. All those skills make a good, healthy relationship.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next question was, what do you look for in a friendship or in a relationship?
Alors, la question suivante, c'est qu'est-ce que vous cherchez dans une relation d'amitié ou bien une relation en général? Qu'est-ce qu'on cherche? Ça, c'est une question importante. It's an important question. What are we looking for?
And I think Susan mentioned some really good points when she talks about boundaries. But when you think about a friendship, and relationships often start as friendships, think about reciprocation, right? Is it one-sided? Is one person doing everything? Is that one person always the one to call, to text, to set things up? or is there some balance involved? And of course, my lens is different because I am a criminologist, but safety is really key. When you're around this person, do you feel safe? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel seen? Do you feel heard? Are they putting you in situations where your safety is compromised? It's all of those things. And again, we're looking at safety, respecting your space, respecting your safety. And again, how does it feel? How does it feel? Is it a lot of work? Is it healthy? You know, those are some of the characteristics I would recommend looking into or examining as it relates to a relationship or a friendship.
Now, add that on that safety, it's bring up the secure attachment for dependability and liability, and to be reliable. That you are able, our friends, we need to be able to depend on them and to know that they are reliable to us to create our safety. And I'll also add more of acceptance. This is really good, and I do teach sometimes I do teach, and this is my own personal growth too. The more we accept our friends for who they are, and there's no abusive, there's those boundaries we talk about, but sometimes when we try to change our friends to be things that they're not, or our partner to be people that they are not, of course, we're gonna come into head corrosion. So what does acceptance mean? What does acceptance mean? Without devouring who I am, without devouring who you are. So a good friendship is a friendship that you accept your friends for who they are without wanting to change them. Within the guideline, of course. If they're abusive, then they're not healthy. They're not good in the first place. So this is what I have improved my relationship when I've come to my friends to accept who they are and not trying to change them and not trying to, for knowing that they're not there to make me happy. They're there just to be them and to do life and for me to do life, and we can all do life. So I like that approach.
I like it too. Yes, it's true. But is this related to what our purpose? Like, if we're not looking for, if we are looking for something special, we will not try to change them, but we will not also feel comfortable. You don't see that?
Mm-hmm. So you're wondering if you're looking for something special and you're in a romantic relationship?
Yes, and you don't find, for example, this thing, and is that means that you don't have to look for it anymore and just to accept it or to admit it? Because you said,
I would say going back into personal growth, like when we're really connected, and I'm very much into holistic approach. When we're really connected with who we are, we have all the specialness that we need, and we just attract the right people in our life. And I say attract because they really do. I like saying, it's like if you have a dark room and you want to catch flies, and it's dark, like mosquito during summer. If you're in Manitoba, you know what I mean. Like there's those little mosquitoes at night and you want to catch them. And you're going to go running after them at dark. You hear them here, you go there, you go there. But what you need to do is put that light in the middle of the room, and they always come. So I say I don't have to go looking for that specialness. I just need to be that special people, and those people will come. So the work is within us, and the right people will come.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is a great approach. Yes, I like it.
Well, I was going to say, if that was the case with relationships, wouldn't it be easier to love yourself first before you try to love others? And that way, that whole effect would come abundance into out there for you, instead of just like having something negative. At least love yourself first before you try to love someone else. Would that be in that kind of realm, if anything?
Yeah, I would add that too. And if you do have that unhealthy person, you do you, and what will happen is that you will influence them to change, or you will part away. So there is no fuss. You don't need to change anyone. I'm just gonna keep growing. And what happened is you start responding different, and they're responding different, and you're influencing your family. When you grow, you benefit not just your relationship, your children, your friend. It's this big event that goes on, and sometimes you may outgrow people, and that's fine. And there's that fine too.
Thank you. Our next question is, what is the difference between an open relationship and a poly?
C'est quoi la différence entre une relation ouverte ou bien dotée d'un esprit ouvert et une relation poly ou bien polyvalente? I guess she means poly par polyvalente.
Laurie, do you want to answer that? Or?
You can take that one, Susan.
Okay, this is my area of specialty for sure. I've written a whole book on it, so I'm very excited. So what is open relationship and polyamorous relationship? Probably it may be new for some people and maybe not, but now in the TV and mainstream media, they are bringing this topic. See, open relationship and polyamorous, there's a mother, the mother and the parent will be, we call it non-monogamous relationship or ethical non-monogamous relationship. This is ethical because you're not cheating behind your partner, you're not going behind your partner, it's consent. And underneath that, there is open relationship, like siblings, it's like an umbrella. There is open relationship, there is polyamorous, there is polygamous, probably people know polygamous, people know swingers. Under that, people probably have heard of swingers. And there is polyandry is when a woman has multiple husbands in some culture. And that culture has polygamy, where a husband has many wives. So polyamorous is branches of ethical and monogamous. And what I want to talk about that, actually research was done by British Columbia and on a journal of sexual research. And they discovered that 10% of Canadian wants to be in open relationship. So that's a big number if you think about 10%. And this is people who are documented it. And University of Guelph as well, they did a research and they discovered that people who are in open or polyamorous relationship or non-monogamous relationship, that's the general term, they are as happy as monogamous relationship. They're as fulfilled and satisfied in their relationship as monogamous people could be. So it doesn't matter the style and the relationship is the work that goes in it. It's who you are in those relationships. Something you want to know about monogamous, when you talk about monogamous, is the traditional way. It's you and your partner. It could be a heterosexual, it could be it could be a LGBTQ or gay couple, it could be, but it's a two people. While non-monogamous is exclusive, or you're including, it's inclusive, you're including multiple partner. Polyamorous is where you are having sexual but also romantic relationship with people rather than your partner. Open relationship gravitated towards mostly sexual. So when people say we're into open relationship, they mean we look for sexual experiences. When people say I'm polyamorous, we look for romance, we look for love with multiple partners. And that's what poly means multiple love.
Okay, so it's not related always to sex. It's related also to culture, or
for polyamorous is mostly not always sex. It could be romance, friendship, emotional bond. When you talk about polygamy, it's different culture have that. It's depend on what style you're talking about. Like those siblings, each siblings have the role they play, and it depends on what you're looking for.
So I just want to correct something in French. It's not polyvalent, polyvalent. So polygam, she means by polygam. So monogam or polygam. This is so interesting. Thank you so much, Suzanne. And your book is interesting too. I remember, je rappelle le nom de votre bouquin, Une vie heureuse dans une relation ouverte, un guide pour une vie amoureuse, non monogame, saine et épanouissante. This is a translation of your book in French.
All right, thank you so much.
Happy life, open relationship, non-monogamous.
Yeah.
Yes.
Our next question is, how do I help my friend get out of a toxic relationship?
So I'll take this. Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Et c'est la question est comment aider mon ami pour qu'il s'en sorte d'une relation toxique.
So very sensitive, very hard, especially when we know how much we love our friends and we love our families. So my recommendation is that you approach this with gentleness, because oftentimes we see things that our friends don't see, but we don't necessarily want to be that one holding up the mirror and saying you shall or you shall not. So a couple of recommendations would be this, because again, I'm looking kind of down the line that a relationship starts one way and then morphs into something else where it might be violence. So something that you could do as a friend is maybe document. And again, this is not something that you're like, hey girl, remember he said this or he said that. This is for you in case it's something that you might need later. So things just to kind of take note of, whether it's those signs, whether it's those red flags. It could be something as simple. And again, simple can be more serious, where you're noticing that your friend is changing her patterns. For example, she loves playing basketball. And all of a sudden she has stopped playing basketball because all of her time is being consumed in this relationship where her partner is now monopolizing all of her time and really changing who this person is at the core, the things that they love. But of course, it might be some name calling and of course, control. A lot of this, the underlying thing is control. So be gentle with your friend, ask questions, don't tell, ask, you know, are you happy? How are things going? I noticed that you stopped playing basketball with us. You know, what's up? You know, things like that. Again, being very gentle, because it's very easy for these situations to turn where then you, as the friend out of love that you're trying to help, is now the villain, pardon me, where you just don't like my boyfriend, you just don't like my girlfriend, or you're jealous that you're single and you're not in a relationship. So be very, very careful, be very gentle, and then you can offer resources. You know, you don't even have to say anything. You can send a post that you saw on Instagram. You could say, hey, there's a self-defense class being put on by Cupid saying, why don't we go? Where, you know, you might learn about some of these issues and how to, again, we're going back to healthy relations to really see what a healthy relationship looks like. But the other thing is, when you are attempting to assist your friend in getting out of a toxic relationship, we want to make sure that you're safe too. So that everything that you're doing, your suggestions, whether, you know, it's face-to-face, whether, you know, it's just offering some resources, offering some suggestions, some recommendations, do it from a place of safety, because we don't want you as the friend to get caught up in that situation as well.
Exactly. I appreciate it a lot, because this is like, it's like your energy run out while trying to help your friend. So, assurez-vous bien de vraiment garder votre énergie et de ne pas trop s'impliquer et investir dans d'autres relations, s'investir pour aider quelqu'un et quelque chose qui va vous tirer vers le bas et non pas vers le haut. Voilà. Merci beaucoup, Dr. Laurie, Samuel, yes. So
our last question for this would be, my daughter's friends are hypersexual and she told me they often tease her for being vanilla. When she's only 17 years old, we have a good relationship and talk about sex openly, but I don't want her to move too fast just to keep up with her friends. What can I do?
Alors, ma fille, les amis de ma fille sont super actives en matière de sexualité et la taquinent toujours en se disant Vanille, va où Vanilla? Quand elle avait juste 17 ans, et on a une très bonne relation entre maman et fille. Et ils en parlent de tout et de rien, mais je ne veux pas qu'elle brûle les étapes pour suivre la ligne de ses amis. Qu'est-ce que je peux faire?
And go ahead and take that. So what I would say is continue doing what you're already doing. The fact that your daughter is speaking to you is that you're doing something right. Fostering that friendship is the best thing you can ever do. You're already doing more than you think you're doing. Actually, you're doing more. The fact that she feels comfortable to talk to you. Another thing is talk about peer pressure in general. How does she deal with other pressure, judgment of people and other people's opinion? So you're moving away from a little bit from sexual, not having this targeted topic, to how do you cope with other pressure in life? If someone wants to go to a restaurant and you really don't want to go to that restaurant, and you've been going to the same restaurant and you really want to go to another one, how do you navigate those discussions and those topics? So you want to come in a holistic approach of empowering how to deal with people's judgment and opinion. And another thing is normalize what it is to be vanilla. What's wrong with vanilla? To be able to say, hey, what's wrong with that? So you're normalizing those experiences. And you're wanting her to feel that there's nothing wrong she's doing for being who she is at that point. So I'll talk about that. I'll talk about safe sex in general, things that are more important of safe sex. Those are more important. Consent in sexuality. Those are more important to be able to say, do you know what consent is? Are you being safe when this is happening? And moving away from this is just what you're gonna do. Don't do this. I don't want you to be pressured into something. And I think I like the way Laurie talked about when we push people too much, they go against or they start going on protective mode. So it's better to become more friends, and it's better to be able to see it as more in a holistic way of, in general, how would you deal with people's judgment and opinions? Yeah, I don't know, is there anything else you can add to that?
I'll just add one thing quickly, that I think a lot of times when you're 16, 17, all you're thinking about is that present moment. And I would recommend just reminding your daughter that, you're going to grow up, and we have to think about sometimes how these things might impact us later in life. So it's okay. And if she is going to engage in sexual relations, like what you said, Susan, be safe about it. But unfortunately, a lot of times when women engage or young women engage in sexual relations, they can be labeled, and it's always something negative. And sometimes that carries with you for the rest of your life. So it's just that reminder. And I love the fact that this mother and daughter have an open relationship. We need more of that, particularly in our community, so that sex isn't dirty, right? It's not something that should be hidden, and that we should be a little bit more open about it because it's something that's natural. And if it's done right in a loving environment, then it's okay.
Thank you so much. Have to thank you both. Thank you, Susan Wenzel and Dr. Laurie Samuel. Great informative information. I'm sure we're taking a lot in here tonight. And before I have to say thank you and let you go, I would like to remind people we're having another quick break. We're going to be doing a yoga session. And before I do that, I would like to state it's going to be with Tamar Joseph. And Tamar Joseph is a licensed professional counselor in the state of Pennsylvania. She has worked as a therapist for 15 years, and areas of specialty include depression, anxiety, life transitions, and racial issues. The primary modalities utilized are cognitive, behavioral, and person-centered. Tamar is also a yoga teacher and teaches virtual classes to her clients. So before we let you go for a quick break, I also want to keep in mind that after our event tonight, we are going to be doing some great prize giveaways. So just bear with us. Thank you.
Nous allons nous reposer, je crois, avec une séance de yoga et relaxez-vous bien. À tout de suite.
Hi ladies, welcome to Wind Down Yoga. Let's start in a comfortable seated position, closing down the eyes, taking long breaths in and long breaths out. Option for measured breath where you inhale for 2 and exhale for 4, or inhale for 3 and exhale for 6. Closing down the eyes, focusing on your breath. Going through one more round of breath. And now gently opening your eyes, and you'll make your way to your tabletop position. In your tabletop position, head is in neutral spine, eye sockets of the elbows shining forward, palms pressing through the mat, knees are hip width apart. Option to curl the toes under or keep them flat. You'll inhale, shine your heart, and slowly exhale, chin to chest, doming the spine. Inhale, shine your heart. Exhale, dome. One more time. Inhale, shine your heart. Exhale, dome. Returning to your tabletop position, you'll bring your hips to your heels, arms come forward, forehead to the mat, into your child's pose. Inhaling and exhaling deeply. Bringing the arms to the right side of the mat, feeling the side body stretch. Coming back to center. And now the left side of the mat. Returning to center. Placing your forearms on the mat as you straighten your legs. Shining your heart forward for your Sphinx pose. And now we'll make our way to our backs. Option to bring a pillow to your side. You'll bring your right knee to your chest. And you'll cross it over the left side of your body, scooching the left hip out the way. Arms can come to a T or gold pose as you look to the right. Slowly unraveling the right leg. Bringing the pillow to the other side. You'll bring your left knee to your chest. And you'll cross it over the right side of your body, scooching that right hip out the way. Arms can come to goal pose or straight as you look to your left and breathe. Slowly unraveling. Legs come straight. Arms come long by your side, palms facing the ceiling, taking up space on your mat. Coming to Shavasana, meaning resting pose. Option to place your left hand on your heart, right hand on your belly, and go for measured breath. Inhaling for 2, exhaling for 4, or inhaling for 3 and exhaling for 6. Fluttering your eyes open. Returning to a comfortable seated position.
Thank you so much, Tamar, Roger, Joseph. I want to remind that Tamar Joseph est une conseillère professionnelle agréée dans l'État de Pennsylvanie. Elle travaille comme thérapeute depuis 15 ans et ses domaines de spécialisation sont les suivants: la dépression, l'anxiété, les transitions de vie et les questions raciales. Les principales modalités utilisées sont la thérapie cognitivo-comportementale et la thérapie centrée sur la personne. Tamar est également professeur de yoga et donne des cours virtuels à ses clients pour connaître la biographie. Alors, merci beaucoup, Tamar, pour cette séance de yoga.
Hey.
And back to you, Terena.
Thank you, Geeta. Welcome back, everyone. Our next segment is going to be Academics and Careers with Dr. Leisha Strong. A little bit about Dr. Strong she is a professor and serving as Associate Dean Research and Graduate Studies in the Faculty of Kinesiology and Recreation Management at the University of Manitoba. Her research is focused on positive youth development through sport, and she is interested in exploring positive coaching behaviors and parent involvement. Dr. Strong is part of a research team exploring anti-racism policies and practices in Winnipeg and the sport experiences of newcomers in the community. This year, Dr. Strong was a recipient of Canada's 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women for her ongoing work supporting activities with organizations and groups working for the advancement of Black women and girls.
Alors, bienvenue avec nous, Dr. Leisha Strachan. I'm sorry if I don't spell it good and correctly, but ses expériences dans le domaine de la psychologie du sport ont également appliqué un travail appliqué. Et Dr. Strachan est professeur et vice-doyen de la recherche et des études supérieures à la faculté de kinésiologie et de gestion des loisirs de l'Université du Manitoba. Ses recherches portent sur le développement positif des jeunes pour le sport et elle s'intéresse à l'exploration des comportements d'entraînement positif et à la participation des parents. Passant 5 saisons en tant que consultante en performance mentale avec l'équipe du soccer féminin de l'Université du Manitoba. Elle est aussi un ancien membre de l'équipe nationale dans le sport du twirling à la matraque, remportant 2 médailles de bronze au championnat du monde. Bienvenue avec nous, Mr. Leisha.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Thanks, ACMP, for having me for this session. I'm super excited to share this space with so many amazing Black women. So hopefully I can help for the next half hour. I'm coming after yoga, so I'm not quite sure everyone's awake because I was almost sleeping in Shavasana there.
Well, I'm glad at least you're enjoying it, and that's what it's about. So I'm happy to hear. We do have a question from before earlier, and our first question is, how did you know you wanted to go to grad school? Did your undergrad help you decide?
Alors, la question dit, comment vous arrivez à décider que vous vouliez vraiment partir au niveau supérieur dans vos études? Alors, est-ce que les études primordiales ou bien qui sont moins supérieures vous aident à décider cela?
Oh, thank you so much. This is an excellent question, and I'm just gonna, speak from my own experience, of course, but everyone has a different path, leading to academia, if that's what your goal is. I didn't know I wanted to do grad school. I would say that going through my undergraduate, I was actually probably a very middle of the road kind of student until maybe my very last year of school. I actually started first as a physical educator. I was a teacher first. So I think my original path was really thinking about teaching high school. That's what I wanted to do originally. And so it wasn't anything, and as mentioned, I have a sport background where I was, competing at a really high level, well into university as well, and being able to travel with Team Canada for the sport of baton twirling. And so, grad school just wasn't anything that was in my mirror, in my front path at all. It was actually more of a chance encounter with a good friend of mine who is now at the University of Winnipeg, is a professor there. And at the time, she was in her third year of her doctorate studies. And I ran into her at an airport. I was actually already teaching, had my first teaching job. And through my sport experience, I always had great coaches. I was very blessed to have a lot of great people in my path. But one of them was, I've had a couple coaches who have a big influence on me. And one of those coaches is really into sports psychology. And even when I was young, 11, 12, 13, she was having me do imagery. She was having me, think of positive self-talk in a very simplistic way, but was exposing me to those things. And so I always developed an interest in that, although I didn't know that I could pursue it. And in my undergraduate education, actually, there wasn't any sports psychology courses. There was one in the psychology department, but I wasn't in that faculty, and so I could never get into it. So I never took sports psych at all in my undergraduate education. So I think it was that chance encounter with this colleague. And I found out that she was pursuing sports psychology, and I didn't even know that you could do a master's in that or, continue on. And so I took sort of a year to think about it. It always stayed in the back of my head, that this is something that maybe I should think about doing it, and I started sort of making steps, just kind of thinking about it, stayed in my head. I think this was probably just around Christmas or January of one year. And it really took me a full year and a half before I even started my master's after that. So, so I didn't know, but I think, this is why you have different people in your life. This is why you keep, I wouldn't say networking, but you just keep, keep people in your life who, and just be positive with all the people around you, because you never know who you're going to bump into. And I think from that experience, it just made me think, sports psychology, maybe I want to teach at university. And so that was always my goal, was to teach at university, not knowing anything. I was very naive going into grad school, didn't know anything about research, or that research was going to be sort of a part of this. It was really a lot of, I wouldn't even say they're chance encounters. I don't believe things happen by chance. I do believe a lot in faith, and that, God put the right people in my path to lead me to where I needed to be. And so, so I think, it's a long answer to your question, but, it was really, in a small paper that I did in my, third year of physical education that was about sports psychology. And that little paper kind of led me to really thinking about I didn't realize this was a whole field, and that, there's a lot of research in this area, and that people are doing work in this area. And so, applying to grad school then was a challenge for me, because I didn't have any academic references, and I I didn't really have a lot of things that most people would have to apply to graduate school. So, you know, but I had a lot of people in my quarter and different people who could write letters for me. And so, you know, because of that, I was really fortunate that Dr. Krista Chandler at the University of Windsor, you know, really took, to this day, and now that I know the sort of the other side of it and accepting students, you know, she really did take a big chance on me. And I'm fortunate that she did, and I'm always super grateful to her for that. So, so, you know, you never know what, you can pursue a lot of different fields. You just never know what's going to come your way. And so it's really important to be open, but also really important to just, you know, think about what your passions are and know that you can pursue them. Even after starting a career that I, you know, thought I would be just, not just, but a physical educator for, you know, 35 years. That's what I was thinking I was going to be. And, you know, you never know what your path takes you, where your path takes you. So I just have a question in the chat that just came to me too, about my coaches. Were they Black or white? Both my coaches were white in my sport. I didn't have, in my sport, there weren't really many Black athletes even at that time. There's maybe 3 of us in Canada, 4 of us in Canada in my sport. And so no one at those higher levels. Now I'm a coach. I have a club here in the city. I've been coaching now for 26 years, this club that I started. And, you know, part of me coaching is so that the athletes that I see, and mostly of whom are white, can have an interaction with someone of a different color and race within our sport. We don't have that, a lot of that. So I really try to model that for them as well, and to be a friend and example for them. And then when I do have some Black athletes who come my way, I'm so grateful that I can be there for them as a coach who can, you know, be that role model for them, because I know how important that is in the field of positive youth development, to have strong, positive coaches. So yeah, so I was very fortunate with coaches who, you know, who my parents did talk to a lot and made sure that I was properly cared for, and that, you know, that they were able to, you know, pick music for me and pick costuming for me, things that, you know, I guess made me feel comfortable. So for example, last thing I'll say about this, in my sport, there are, like, similar to figure skating or whatever, or dance, we wear tights and jazz shoes in our costuming. And, you know, I grew up never having, and, you know, it kind of changed when I started the sport, there weren't any tights. And as I became a little bit older, that sort of came into it, that fashion, and we've kind of stayed with that. And there weren't anything in my skin color, and nothing, as you know, and so nothing. And so I was really fortunate that my one coach, who was actually from Toronto, so I used to travel from the time I was 16 until I stopped competing. I used to go to Toronto pretty much every 6 weeks for training with her. And she made sure, she was like, nah, this isn't acceptable. We got to find a way to get tights and shoes that match your skin color. This is ridiculous. And so we had a costume designer here who was able to take all my tights and dye them dark brown, and we got some dark brown spray for my shoes, so my shoes could be dark brown. And even in the, you know, this would be I'm gonna date myself, the early 90s, you know, she was very aware of that. And, you know, I hadn't thought about it too much. I was just like trying to fit in with everybody else probably. But she was like, you're never, you know, you need to shine. So we need to find things that match you. And so I was really fortunate to have those coaches who understood that and placed importance on that, and saw that this is what I need to do in order for me to be the best athlete that I can be, and to be myself when I'm out there on the floor.
Thank you so much. That I understood that struggle with the whole leotard thing there, but love it.
Joanna, I just want to add something something personal, because I did what we call professional training. This is what we call it. Ce qu'on appelle en français la reconversion professionnelle. This is what I did personally. So don't be afraid. Just choose what you like reading, because I was scientific and I journaled to literary field, and because I really like it so much. I felt myself more in languages, etc. So under your undergraduate like studies, I'm sure that it will not judge or decide the end of your life or of your dreams.
Yes. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Les études de premier cycle ou bien les études de baccalauréat, ce qu'on appelle ici, ou bien de licence en Europe, sont pas vraiment un critère qui va définitif, qui va vraiment juger tout le reste de votre vie. Voilà.
Perfect. And thanks, Gita, for sharing that. I mean, when I started my undergraduate, I started as a French minor.
I think we have a frozen screen here.
Can you hear me?
I was going to be an English teacher. That's where I was going.
It's okay.
I can hear you.
Can you guys hear now?
Yes, we hear you. We hear.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Sorry, having a little issue. It's all good. Just to have our next question, another question was, have you experienced a lot of racist professors and peers?
Sorry. No, we can.
Alors, we want to make sure, Tarina, that Leisha heard the question in English first.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're sort of lagging, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
sorry.
Yes, perfect.
How about
I'm here. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's
okay.
okay.
Any problems the whole time until right now.
Live.
It's all good. There's always this. That's the problem, you know. The fun times about being live, right? It's all good. Bear with us.
I heard the question. Thanks so much for asking this and for whoever sent this question in. You know, this is a hard question to answer because I can't say that I experienced like overt racism right to me, but definitely as I reflect back, microaggressions, I think were definitely prevalent throughout. And I'll just give one even example. I was at a conference one time, just when I was in my graduate education, and you know, there's a group for sport and exercise psychologists and motor learning, and there were only two Black women, actually Black people, who were doing research at the time. And one was at a different university, and I used to always see her when we went to conferences. And so because we were the only two Black people, we instantly gravitated to each other and spent a lot of time together whenever we go to conferences. And she wasn't in my field, but I would see her. And she got married and, you know, ended up being pregnant. So at one conference, she was very, very pregnant at sort of the last conference that I saw her. And so months go by and I go to a different conference where a lot of the same people are at, and I'm presenting a poster. And of course, someone comes up to me and is like, "Oh my gosh, you look great after having your baby." I was like,
wow.
That wasn't, I just said that was the other Black girl who was in this organization. Not me. There's only two of us. So, you know, and I think, you know, that's when you're the only one in many spaces. And I reflected on this a lot in the last little bit. You know, I've been the only Black person in many different spaces growing up. So through my sport, you know, I was always involved in the arts, so always involved in dance or, you know, musical theater or, you know, those girls choir, you know, other than in cultural groups and cultural practices that I went to, cultural dancing and those types of things. You know, I was really the only Black person. So I feel like I got very comfortable with navigating spaces as the only Black person, and maybe not talking about it or calling out as much as I should have throughout my development. And again, it's just me was always this idea of just wanting to sort of blend in a little bit. And so, you know, when I think about it more, definite microaggressions, and a reminder that you are the only one, you know, in these spaces. And I think it's important for me to talk a little bit more about that now, the positions that I hold, you know, that anti-Black racism is real, that the academy was really not meant for us. And we're not really supposed to be in these spaces, but here we are. And, you know, I've been watching the, some of the highlights from Judge Jackson's, oh my gosh, proceedings in the States. And, you know, if you haven't heard the impassioned talk by Senator Booker, you know, towards her, you know, that was a reminder, you know, and to see her cry and the tears in her reflecting about being a Black woman in these spaces where she had been the only one for a long time. And so I think, you know, there's a lot of work there that has to be done. And then I know the second part talked about sexism, and, you know, it's hard to separate, right? So, you know, intersectionality is there. And so you know, in terms of just thinking myself as a woman, I can't do that without thinking of myself and my experience as a Black woman. So, so I think it's important to think about those experiences together. You know, there's not many Black women in my field, and I think about that a lot, considering I'm in sport. And you think within sport there'd be a lot more Black bodies in academia in my area. And really, when I go to conferences, I don't see many Black people at all. So I really make a point when I do see Black graduate students at conferences I go to, I make a point of going and speaking to them and offering any support that I can, or any mentorship that I can, even in a conversation or ongoing, because we need to have more people in these spaces. So I'll leave that there.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Yes, Tarina, you want to say something?
Yeah, no, just to get back onto the question, because there's another question sort of similar to what you just came through. And that question was, do you have many Black women in your field to look up to? And how did you find a mentor?
Donc, la première question était, est-ce que vous avez eu des expériences de racisme avec vos professeurs ou collègues, et qu'est-ce que vous pensez du sexisme aussi? Et la deuxième question est très relative à la première. Elle dit que est-ce qu'il y a des femmes noires que vous pouvez consulter, et comment trouver un mentor ou bien un coach?
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I'll just quickly address the question in the chat. We definitely don't need to blend in at all. We are extremely unique. And so I think it's just finding that unique, for myself personally, find that unique voice more. But definitely, we have to stand out now so that we can be examples for others as well. And so that leads to the question, really. I didn't have any Black women in my field. I still haven't come up against Black women in my field in terms of sports psychology. You know, looking at youth development, I still am very much the only one that I've encountered, at least in Canadian context. You know, my mom was a teacher, so, you know, I'm always going to look up to people who were teachers, and I think that's what I think of myself as first, is a teacher, because that's what I wanted to go into. So even though I'm doing research, you know, I'm still mentoring grad students. I see that as teaching, and being able to work with undergraduates as well. So, you know, so my mom was a teacher. You know, maybe there weren't Black women in my field specifically, but if I think of Black women within academia, I didn't see many growing up. I actually saw a few more Black men in our community here in Winnipeg who were elders. Dr. Sandiford's one, Dr. D.K. Gordon is one, Dr. Alpha is another. And Dr. Alpha is a professor emeritus in the math department here at the University of Manitoba. And early in my career, he had been really helpful to me at very specific stages of my career. So when I started, when I was going for tenure, when I got tenure, when I was going for promotion, and he would always just say, reach out and we'll have coffee and we'll meet on campus and we'll just chat about where you are. And I really was really fortunate to have him. And I still hear his voice sometimes, particularly as someone who's in administration now. you know, it wasn't something I aspired to from the beginning necessarily, but he always told me, you know, if you have a chance to do administration, do it. It's important. He always did it in his own department, even if it was taking a year, you know, covering a mat leave for someone or a research leave that someone's on, that those are important positions to take and hold, not only to learn more about the system and how you can actually affect change within the system, but also to be an example for other Black students at our university. So, so I take that very seriously. I hear his voice all the time when I'm really frustrated, and sometimes in some administrative tasks or doing things, I always think, you know, this is really important for myself. And now I've just come up against some other, I guess had a chance to meet other Black scholars now, whom is great. You know, I didn't have that beginning part in my career when I started here at the University of Manitoba almost 13 years ago now. And so it's nice to be able to have a group or just know some people on campus who can share that experience. So I'm really looking forward to and in this time too, I've been able to meet more Black academics. Janelle Joseph is one, the University of Toronto, who's doing fantastic work. And there's many others now out there that I've seen on webinars that I've been able, in this Canadian context, in different faculties that I've been able to learn from. So I consider them all mentors, even though I haven't met some of them. I think just learning from them and hearing their stories is really encouraging for me. And I'm someone who really gravitates towards stories. I like hearing a lot of stories as a sports psych person, and I did as an athlete as well. So I love learning from stories, and I think that's one of the most important things that we can do is learn from people's stories, our elders, as well as people who we are fortunate to work with and to be in communities with.
Exactly, like success stories are the best way to learn, to get motivated. And I just want to add something quickly, Leisha. I don't know if you agree with me, but I always have my best friend. I told her, like, I do believe that, I don't know if you agree or not, but just to not, for example, relate everything bad you came across to the fact that you're Black. Everyone, like, this is what you came across, or something bad because he's a bad person, or he has a bad spirit, and maybe he is a bad person with white persons too. So it becomes like a low attraction. If you are good, you are cheerful, you are proud of yourself, you are confident, you just go without intentions, without prior intentions and stereotypes, and just don't I do believe on that, like, everything bad is not related to you, it's his problem, it's because he's bad. Maybe he's bad with whites also, maybe he's bad with himself. So I'm against to relate everything bad or everything not bad, negative, or negative attitude, or everything, to relate it to the fact that we are, or the girl or the boy, he's Black. So I really believe in that. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm trying to fully understand it, but you know, I have you know, I'm a proud first generation Canadian here, parents who came from Grenada, and, you know, came here with really nothing, and as many as of our elders did here in Winnipeg. And so I learned from them, and I think from watching them and understanding the struggles that they had with the racism that they encountered when they did come here, and the discrimination they had in getting jobs that they were able to that they didn't get, and then were able to actually get. I think watching their positivity is inspiring to me, you know. And so I think, I mean, I can't, you know, I don't want to comment too much, but just the importance of positivity, and also knowing what your goal is. Like, they knew what their goals were coming here, and to make things better for myself and my brother and my whole family. So I think, you know, I learned that from my dad's extremely positive person. And so I think even though, you know, he encountered a lot of racism, discrimination here, they were able to, you know, navigate that, I think, because of their positivity and because of their faith. So
Ouais.
those are important things. And there's just one question in the chat that someone just sent me. Just, you know, as a mentor, what are some challenges that I'm facing with Black mentees? I wouldn't even, you know, challenges I think are hard to think of. I'm sorry, I know we're going a little over time here, so I'll keep this short. But I think for the Black mentees that I do have in my lab, a challenge is the system, really, right? And just trying to navigate and have them understand, you know, more about their responsibility and who they are within the system that we call the academy. And that there's a lot of things that that we have to do to challenge things that are happening within the system. And, you know, I'm trying to do the best I can as a mentor to try to lead them in the right directions. You know, trying to find, you know, scholarships, trying to find things that are going to encourage them or allow them to continue the work that they're doing. And again, just trying to talk with them. And so the challenge, I think, is not, I don't have any challenges working with them myself because I understand what it is that they're going through as well. And I try to really now develop a cohort of students so that there are a few Black students in my lab and so that they can, you know, rely a little bit more on each other and understand each other's experiences. So that's really it.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you. I could go forever. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I want to say thank you so much, Dr. Leisha Strong, just for sharing all your experience and giving other people that information on what to do and what to expect. So thank you once more. Been really great. And at this point, I would have to say we're going to have a short little break. So everyone have a quick little break from our skincare session, and we'll come right back with more. Thank you.
Publicité qui est relative au bien-être des femmes, mais n'est-ce pas, Terena? Like related to women too. Séance de soins de la peau, 3 minutes, et c'est relatif toujours au sujet des femmes et à leur bien-être. I think Adele, she will take time to share it. It will take just 3 minutes and we'll be back. Adele, are you here? To thank all our guests, our special guests, for accepting this invitation and being with us in this cheerful event. Yes, back to you, Triana.
Hi, thank you and welcome back, everyone. Before everything goes, I just want to say thank you, but we are now going to direct you to Dr. Warren Clark to do our prize wheel. Warren, are you there with us?
I am here. First off, I want to thank all the presenters. This is awesome. I learned a heck of a lot of information. And I want to also acknowledge that, you know, there's so much that we can all learn to create a relational solidarity within our community. You know, the more we know, the more we practice cultural competency, the more we appreciate, the more we listen, actively listen, it is possible to create stronger bonds within our community. So I want to acknowledge that, and, you know, round of applause again for the great guest speakers, presenters, just wealth of knowledge. I'm so blown away. I'm so appreciative of this opportunity. Without further ado, we got prizes. So if you left, well, I guess you're not winning. That's what's happening. All right. So we got the Goddess Bar. So we're going to just show the website. We're going to give, someone's going to get a gift package from the Goddess Bar. You know, make your skins feel nice and smell smooth, and or smell nice and feel smooth, and, you know, all those good stuff. All right. So this is us supporting Black. All right. So please, 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 if you like the gift, whoever you are, or if you want to check it out yourself, please visit the Goddess Bar. I think it's .com, or lovethegoddessbar.com, sorry, for more details, and let's support Black. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to roll, or we're going to spin the wheel. Here we go. Spinning the wheel. Spin. Who's going to win this prize pack from the Goddess Bar? Amina, are you there? Amina? Amina, are you there? Amina, are you there? Amina?
We have a winner.
Amina, going once. Going twice. Guess what, Amina? You're not there, so I'm spinning again. Here we go.
That's
Melissa.
Whoa.
Melissa, are you there? Melissa? Are you there?
Melissa. I think Melissa.
Oh, people don't want to win this stuff. Oh, Melissa, there you are. Woo! All right. Melissa, please, please, please send your email address to us so we can communicate with you, so you can receive your Goddess Bar prize pack. Much appreciated. Thank you and enjoy. All right, ladies, it is time. It is time right now for the ultimate prize pack. Yes, the picture of mine. I'm jealous. I'm a Jordan collector. It's not I'm jealous. I'm not getting a pair of these J's, but woo, that's what we're going with. Wow, someone's fit is going to be on fire this summer, eh? Whoever's fit this is. So if you left, you ain't getting it. All right, I'm gonna share my screen. Here I go. All right, for the Jordan 1s, and the winner is Martine D. Martine going once. Martine going twice.
Martine, we have Martine NGO.
All right, well, I guess Martine's not here to receive this. We're going to spin it again. Tamar, are you still there? Tamar?
Oh my goodness, I am here.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Oh my
All right.
Nice,
So
nice,
we need your size. We need your size. I know you're overseas, so we need your size so we can ship them to you. All right. Tamar won a pair of J's. I see some sour faces. Don't be sour. I'm just joking. All right, but I am so ecstatic to be giving away, or we are giving away 2 prizes. Also, I want to give a shout out to Adele Lacroix for putting this event together. Please, round of applause for Adele. This was amazing. All right, this was amazing. So please, let's acknowledge the great work Adele did to put this thing together. So I'm signing out, and thank you again. Back to our 2 co-hosts, Tarina and Geeta. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren, and congratulations to the winners out there. Awesome. Fabulous job there, people. Before we go, closing remarks here. I had to say it, and I just want to say thank you to everyone. So my first thing is thank you for our special guests, our panelists. Great, amazing advice, and a lot of information that we are all taking away this evening. And thank you to Geeta, Adele, Warren, and to the fabulous crew behind here who are making this experience so awesome for me. And to you as the audience, thank you for all the patience and just the kindness, just the real love out here that we are offering here tonight. And if there's anything that we need or you want more feedback, there's a breakout room for anybody. And to get more information on all of our guest panelists that we had here this evening, you can please visit the website at www.weareacmp.com. Again, for more information and bio on everyone, it is the website once more is www.weareacmp.com. And thank you for that. Thank you, Geeta, and over to you, Nan.
Yes, merci beaucoup. N'oubliez pas de consulter notre site web, comme avait dit Terena, www.weareacmp.com. This is correct.com or yes. And merci à toutes et à tous d'avoir participé avec nous dans cet événement. Et encore une fois, très spécial. Nous sommes tous et toutes honorées d'avoir participé. Je rappelle Black Women's Glow, Healing, Empowerment and Growth, l'éclat des femmes noires vers une guérison, une autonomisation et une émancipation. Merci à toutes.
Thank you all. Thank you. Please put up the polls.